Excuse me. Well, I'm going to throw in. I'm going to lay in a little bit of, it's yellow ochre with just a hint of burnt sienna, sort of from here to here. I may add a hint of cad yellow pale around here somewhere after I have it painted in. The outside edges I have burnt sienna, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and a bit of raw umber to tone down those edges. Whoops. You get the odd stray little hair in there. I don't like that. But it's just a fact of life. A little more yellow ochre and add a touch of white to it here. Don't want to get too zealous with the high values just yet. I think I'll just tone it down right there as well. Okay. I might not need any cad yellow pale in there. Just the yellow ochre and white seems to be doing a good job. Keep ending up with little bits of debris. Such a nuisance. Such a nuisance that is. I'm probably worrying about it. I'm probably worrying about something that I shouldn't think about too much at all, but anyway. Okay, sticking with the yellow ochre and the burnt sienna. The burnt sienna yellow ochre mixture goes in the direction of these trees, but not quite as orange. So I think that works all right. Now I better remember that I'm working my way out of my focal area now, so I'm going to need to tone that down a little bit. In the comments I noticed for yesterday's video, I had mentioned during the video yesterday that I don't want too much detail in you know, certainly in the roof of the barn. Now, number one, I need to keep my technique consistent throughout the painting. So I've used fairly broad strokes everywhere without putting too much detail in. As we get to our focal area, I think it's a good idea to put a little more detail in. but just a little, not too much. If I get too detailed, it becomes busy, and by trying to make it more interesting, it actually becomes less interesting, because you have the strength of the painting around it, and then you have a very little sort of nitpicky area. Now, I make that judgment as to how much and how little detail I want based on my own eye, my own opinion. It is entirely subjective. So that is up to the painter. I wouldn't want to tread on somebody else's thinking processes with their own painting. But that's how I see it. So I know there's a comment there, and rather than answer it in the comments, I just thought I'd mention that on this little blurb. Okay, well, as you can see, I'm leaving behind, a bunch of different areas. I'm not going to worry about those right now. I'm trying to take care of the important stuff first. Okay, I like how this comes out. I like how this sort of will move in a pointed way. I don't want a bunch of flat lines going right across the painting at the bottom. I think the whole painting has a lot of this going on. Let's just stay consistent and do that as we work to the foreground. Maybe becoming a little more gentle, but nothing to but still having a bit of that feeling of things moving. That's not a perfectly flat prairie. Okay. Now we're going back to the yellow ochre and burnt sienna and raw umber, because again we're going to take it down a notch. I mentioned that we're standing on a little rise here. I'm not sure it's going to stay just like that. I put that in as a reference post for myself. I'm probably going to modify that a little bit. Might even change it completely. I don't know. Now I've added a lot more raw umber and a hint of white to my little pile, which has, as you can see, very successfully toned down the colors. I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna and alizarin crimson. And ultramarine blue. Bit of yellow ochre. bit of dirt there, and it's nice and complementary to the yellow ochres and the oranges that are surrounding it. There we go, a little more. A little more yellow ochre and alizarin crimson in that mixture. Really warm up that purple that I'm throwing in there. Throwing in. I keep saying throwing in. Oh well. Yeah. I think that'll work. I think we'll carry on with similar colors over to the right. I may add a hint of raw umber to this side in places just to tone it down a little bit. Raw umber can be used with many different colors to tone them down. It can be a real chroma killer, which is a handy tool sometimes. I'm going to stay with this mixture, but we're going to go with less blue and more raw umber. I'm going to dirty it up a little bit. Yeah, I could go with put a little more white in that. Oops. Try to keep the garbage out. So I added more raw umber, and I'm going to put a little more yellow ochre in there as well. How's that? Yeah, I like that better. Use the flat of my brush now. It's a little softer. It makes it easier to paint wet and wet. And although this in general may not be a wet and wet painting, the second you are painting, or the second you're laying wet paint into wet paint, you are painting wet and wet. More yellow ochre. I don't like that. Okay, that's better. Yeah, this is very purple. I'm actually going to take this down a notch as well. I think that'll do. Okay. All right. Yeah, okay, I better go. I better start getting darker here. I don't want to go too red. No, I don't want to go too dark. And that was a little bit dark. Excuse me. Boy, I'm coughing a lot, more than usual. But we've got, it's so smoky out. Did a video a little while ago about how much smoke there is around, and it's just been a nasty week. The whole week it's just been yuck. Okay, I'm gonna intersect that line. That line shouldn't come all the way down like that. Waking up in the morning with a raw throat and raw sinuses, and I start crying and I get emotional, and oh my goodness, whatever will I do with myself? Just whine a lot, I guess. Okay, that's more or less okay. I don't know that I want this line going right across all the way. And that's too strong, that line. And that one can go. I tend to like to do that. Leave a lot of lines in, and then once the whole area is painted, start to scrub some of them out. Leaves my options open as I paint. And we're getting towards the bottom of things here, so, you know, I don't want it to look too busy. Still not 100% sure what I'm going to do with this. It's probably going to stay... I'm going to go, obviously, well, I'd go a little greener and quite dark, but I want to stay within these values, but just a little bit darker. You know, so that you don't, your eyes aren't drawn to too much to look at it. Yeah, I've had thoughts as I've been painting this of putting, you know, a sort of a fence post with a brace or something like that in here close up, with maybe just the top of it catching some light. But again, I think that would be suitable if my painting were cut off right about here, because then you know, you'd be allowed to have more information, more objects, more subject matter down here. But the painting is... I'm going to back the camera out here. I'm blithering on. I'm wearing my lady's glasses again. But the painting's too high, you know, so we can't have that. Actually, let me drop that. There we go. Because it'll get too busy. The busyness has to be here, and it has to stay here. So I just have to be more subtle in the bottom, and that's why I'm thinking of doing things that way. Okay, that's enough. It's another brick in the wall. Oh yeah, and I actually decided to start looking human again for a while. Talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.